Hello everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. So continuing on our journey in application layer protocols. Now we are going to start with something called as electronic mail protocols, right? So yeah. Now let's see how mail is being sent or mail is being transferred. Before that, just let me check if the stream is up and running. At times Twitch does not work that well, so let's check that. And then yeah, so our stream is up and running. And okay, so let's go back to now. One of the most popular features of internet is basically using an electronic mail, right? Now the designers of internet never imagined how popular mail is. Its architecture consists of several components. We'll see everything that. At the beginning, messages sent by electronic mail were short and consist of text only. Later on, we have, for example, exchanging memos. Today, electronic mail, we can send images, much complex. You can include a text, video, audio. It also can, we can also have more than one recipients to be sent. We'll first study the general architecture and then we'll see the three main components. User agent, message transfer agent, and the message access agent. Now, when then we'll describe how the protocols are going to be implemented. So, electronic mail, just like normal mail, you have emails or electronic mail. So, this is the most popular internet application that we have right now. Used by all. So, previously it was to be only text. We could only send uh, text, but now mails have been, you can have what do you say, video, you can add in an audio and much more. We can add even like gifs. And also now like in the early days we only were able to send one recipient. Now we could have like multiple recipients. We could have group created and much more. Now this is a very popular format, right? Like every day of us used uh, internet on a sorry email. We use internet email to be like on a day-to-day basis, right? So it's a very important format. Now email basically consisted of three main things, right? So there were three main or main, what do you say, persons who were involved. So first is basically someone um so first is basically a user agent. So first is we had a user agent. um First component is user agent. Then we have something called as a message transfer agent. So we have a message transfer agent. And the next we have something called as um message access agent, right? So we have a message access. We'll see all the different protocols used at the different level. Now, okay. Now, first scenario is basically the sender and the receiver of the emails are applications or programs of the same system. They are directly connected to a shared system. The administrator asks, okay, now to explain the architecture of email, we are going to study 4 scenarios. To begin with, the simplest situation is we'll begin with the simplest, and then we'll keep on adding some complexities, and we'll uh, try to remove the complexities. The first scenario is the most common exchange of email that happens right now. First is basically the sender and the receiver. These are basically applications, right, on the same system. They are directly connected to a shared system. The administrator has created one mailbox for each user where received messages are stored. A mailbox is a local hard drive, a special file with permissions and restrictions. The owner of the mailbox has access to it. When Alice user needs to send a message to a Bob, Alice runs a user agent to prepare that message and shows it in Bob's mailbox. The message has the sender and the recipient email box. Bob can retrieve and read the contents of this mailbox at his convenience using a user agent. This is similar to a traditional. So the first is basically a traditional architecture, right? Um. Okay, so now first, so this is scenario one. This is use case one, or now this is basically when both the user and the receiver are on the same. I mean, um, yeah, when there are both applications on the same system, right? So this is my system one, and then I have one application. So let's say this is my application one, and I have another application. Say this is application one, and this is application two, right? So this is my application number one. And application 2. Now, in this scenario, the sender and the receiver of the email are the same thing. So now, when Alice needs a when Alice a user needs to send a message to Bob. So now, what are we going to have? We are going to have a shared system. So this is my mailbox. You can consider this as my mailbox. So this is mailbox. Now both are going to have access to this mailbox. It's a shared system. Now what is going to happen is where the received messages are stored. A mailbox is a local hard drive. When Alice, okay, now each of them will have. So this is like it's Alice's mailbox, and this is Bob's. So this is Bob's mailbox. So I have Alice and Bob. This is Alice. This is Bob. Now what is going to when Alice a user needs to send a message to Bob, Alice uses a user agent to prepare the mail and then stores it in the so okay. Now what we need to do is so this is suppose this is Alice and this is Bob. Now this is Alice's mailbox, right? Alice's mailbox and Bob's mailbox. Alice wants to send email to Bob. So Bob, so what it does is so Alice uses a user agent. It just prepares the mail, for example, a little bit of encoding and whatever other things, and then it comes and it stores it in Bob's mailbox. Now what Bob does is he uses another user agent just to access. So this is to access the mailbox, right? Now this is a very simple mail transfer. I mean, this is a very simple scenario, right? There is no server or something that is being involved. Now Bob says so if Bob wants to send a message, he'll come and put it in Alice's mailbox. So it's very straightforward, right? Nothing complex. Now let's come to scenario 2. So let's make this thing a little bit more complex. Now Alice needs, now when second scenario is when the sender and the receiver are on the same, so we don't need more. Yeah, so basically what we can conclude from the previous is when both are them on the same system, we just need one user agent to have the access. The second scenario, Alice needs to use a user agent program to send her a message to the system at her own site. Now we are going to own site. So for example, now we have moved. Now when both are on different machines or both are using their own different applications. So I say both Alice and are on both Alice and Bob are on different machines. So this is my Alice. Suppose this is my Alice, and then this is Bob, right? So Alice is going to send message to Bob, and now Alice. Okay, no wait, let's change something. Now this is Alice's machine, and then this is Bob's machine as well. So these are now two different devices, right? Okay. So now what Alice? This okay. The system, sometimes called as mail server at our site, uses a queue. So then, this okay. Now what Alice is going to do is Alice is going to have is going to have this mail server. This is my mail server here. And then on the other end, Bob is going to have its own. This is again my mail, right? Now Bob is basically going to contact Alice. Okay, so Bob has his access to its own mail, and then this is the internet, right? So in between, okay, let's shift this thing a little bit here so that we have a little bit space to move. Zoom to 100%. Need to select this thing, right? Let's have everything selected. Let's move it a little bit out. And so this is my mail, right? And this is the internet. So now this is now the message, however, needs to be sent through the internet from Alice side to Bob's side. So here are two transfer agents. So what is going to happen is The system at our site uses a queue to store. Okay, this is my user agent, right? So what Alice is going to do is Alice is going to have a user agent where she is going to have a queue of messages. So this is my, she's going to maintain a queue where the messages are going to be stored. This is a queue, and then all of these messages are going to be sent on the internet one by one, and then this is going to be stored in, so then this is going to be present here in, so I need to have a user agent that is going to do this job, and then from here the moment messages are available, these are also going to be placed in the queue, and then Bob is going to access these messages. So this is my Bob. So this is Bob's user agent. So Bob will use a user agent to access it from its mailbox, right? There are two message transfer agents are needed. So once at the client end, and then one at the receiver end, right? The client on the other end can be okay. Like most client server, the server needs to run all this time because it does not know when a client will ask for a connection. The client on the other end can be alerted by the system when there is a message in the queue to be sent. So let's go to a third scenario. The third scenario is Bob, as in the second scenario, is directly connected to a system. Alice, however, is separated from a system. Okay, now this here we are assuming that there is a physical connection, right? Let's go to the third. Now in third scenario, basically either Alice is connected to the system via point to point, such as a dial-up, or she is connected a LAN in an organization that uses one main server. Okay, so now here what I'm going to do is, so this is my Alice, right? Now in my third scenario, so here what we are saying is, now there is a direct connection, right? So Alice has this access. This is direct access. This is no mail server or something else involved. Now here what we are going to do is basically now this is Alice, and Alice does not have access to the server, right? Instead Alice so this is my mail server. Okay, let's say this is mail server. Now Alice, this is like a remote server. Like Alice does not have this direct access to the server. Now this connection will be made using a cable, or could be using DSL, anything like a dial-up modem, like a DSL or any other things. And then this is going to go over the internet, right? So because Bob is on some other machine, so Bob is somewhere here. If you have this thing, this is Bob. So Bob is having his own machine here, and he is directly connected to his mail system. So Bob is connected to his mail system. So this is his mail system, right? And then this connection is over the internet is going to happen. Alice still needs a user agent to prepare a message. She then needs to send the message through a LAN. So this can be anything. This could be a LAN connection, a WAN connection. This can be done through a pair of messages, or whenever Alice has a message to send, she calls the user agent, which in turn calls the client. The client then establishes a connection with the server, which is then running all the time. The system at Alice sits. So this is basically all my client thing, right? Now there is something called as MTA which has come here. When the sender and the receiver are on different systems, we need two VAs and a pair of MTAs. Now what is this MTS? Okay, now let's see. MTS. Now MTA is basically okay. Now there should be some agent that should be able to transfer. We need some agent to do a transfer, right? From here. The transfer of mail. This is done by and mail transfer agent is what is present here. Okay, that is okay. Because right now they are not physically connected, right? So even here, this internet transfer will be done via an MTA or mail transfer agent, which is going to do the transferring. Now, so this is basically the third scenario that we saw, right? The fourth and final is when both are on. So both basically Alice and Bob both are both do not have physical access to their mailbox, right? Both are basically what do you say, remote. So what Alice will do is, this is my Alice. So this is, suppose this is Alice. Now Alice is going to use a LAN or a WAN. And then this is my this is the mail system, right? So basically what is going to do is, I'm going to have a mail. First is to, yeah, this is basically my to be, and then I'm going to send this thing over the internet. So this is my internet, right? So basically, since I'm going to send over the internet, I'll be having a message transfer agent present here. Now this, to send the to send mail to my mailbox, I'll be having a user agent present over here. And then on similar lines on the receiver end, again, so I'll be having something called as MTA server, and then I'll be, so for okay, and then for this transfer to occur, okay, I'm going to, so then this is my Bob, right? I need to have something called as MAA, right? This is basically a message access agent, a message, because the messages are going to be stored in the mailbox, right? So I need to have some access agent to be able to access the messages. Now, so there are different okay, now this is how, or this is the most common representation of today's mail. So this is most common representation of today's mailbox, of how email works. Now second, know that Bob needs another pair of, okay, we saw that thing. Now push, there is some mechanism called as push and pull, right? Pushing is when we are pushing into the receiver's mailbox. Now when both sender and receiver connect to the mail server, we need two VAs, two pairs of MTAs, and we need an MAS as well, which is very similar to what or how mail agents are going to work. Now user agent, now user is the, so now let's study about each of the what's the job and responsibilities of you. The user agent is basically my the first person that I'm going to use. What does the user agent provide? So user agent, user responsibilities of user agent, right? First feature that it provides is composing messages. You can compose messages over here. Then you can do reading of messages. Then you can do replying. Then you can do forwarding of messages. Then you can do handling mailboxes. Now, okay, so there is a like a specific format to when you send an email, right? So there is a specific format, just like when you do a postal mail. There is a specific format for composing email. So when you do it, what are the mandatory fields that you need to have, right? So suppose this is a physical or handwritten post mail. So say this is, so the first thing that we need to have is the sender's address. So because we need the sender's address. Then we will be having the person who is going to receive. So then we are going to have the receiver address. The sender SL is basically to notify whether mail was sent or not. Like mail was, the receiver address is basically to notify the receiver of the new mail. And then we are going to have some other fields such as date. Then you are going to have like time when the mail was sent, and other fields as well. These are the most important fields that we need right now. I mean, this is like the most important fields. There can be others as well, CC, but then these we are not considering the additional thing, but we are only worrying about the most important fields that we need right now. Okay. Okay. Now. Okay. Now when you write an email, there is a very specific format of how you mention the email. So format of an email. So email is separated by something called as an @ right? So you have two things beside it. So one is so you have two things written beside. First, so the rightmost thing is the DNS or the domain name server. This is my DNS, right? This can be yahoo.com, gmail.com, shaw.ca, whatever. So this is basically my DNS part. The first is basically the actual address of the mailbox host. The first thing is going to represent the address of the mailbox. This is the address. So this is the actual address where we would be sending the image to. The electronic mailing list. Now you can have a list and other things as well. The MIM. Now this is something that we need to worry about. Okay, so MIM is again something. there is something called as so we'll try to understand um okay, so we'll try to understand how the different protocols that are being used, right? Or what is going to happen at each level. Now, whenever we talk about okay, now let's go back to our analogy. Okay, so we said that this is Alice. Okay, now Alice is going to access mailbox, right? Now this is a remote mailbox, so we are going to say this is, let this be my, now how it's going to access is it's going to access using a user agent, right? Now once okay, this is the internet, so let me have my internet here. Now the moment to transfer the message, we need, since we are not locally connected, we need something called as a message transfer agent, right? So I have a message transfer. Now there are two versions of this message transfer agent. One is my client and one is my, it is called as MTA client and MTA server. So this is going to connect to the internet. Now at the receiver end, so even the receiver does not have access to its mailbox, right? So this is the location where we are going to store. This is again receivers remote mailbox. So what I'm going to do is at the receiver end, I'll be having the MTA client, or the MTA client being working, and this is going to connect to my Alice, right? So this is going to, oh, what happened, right? Wait. Yeah, so then this is going to be my MTA client, and then this is Bob, right? So then Bob can access his box. This is Bob. So Bob will also be using his OS. So this is Bob's user agent. You can mention user agent. Now these this MTA client and MTA server need to be of same type, right? That means what I'm trying. So now there are different types of MTAs. So, so MTAs can be classified. There are two broad types of MTAs. Either you could have POP3 kind of MTA, or either you could have IMAP kind of M3A. Sorry, MTA. So if I'm using IMAP, then the receiver also should have the same. The receiver and client should be in sync. Whatever MT is being used at the client side or the server side, same should be at the receiver side as well. Oh no. So this is MTA. Let's ignore. So POP3 and IMAP are not MTA. So I need to have the MTA client and server being present, and both at both the sender and the receiver. If I'm having the MTA client being present here, then I should have the MTA what do you say, the MTA. If my MTA client is present here, then I should have the if this is my MTA server, then I should have the MTA client being present here, else it won't work. Now let's see where we are going to have the IMAP and POP3 being present, right? And then we have something. Okay, now for Bob to access this mailbox, we will need to have a message access agent as well, right? For Bob to access, we'll be having a message. So user agent is just for sending. So user agent, remember, user agents are for sending. User agents are for sending to the mailbox, right? Uh, mm, let's open this. Oh, so the user agents are for composing mails. Okay, so user agent is like an application where we are going to compose our mails. Okay, so user agent, this is my application. So to access the mailbox, I need something called as a message accessing agent, right? So to access the mailbox, we are going to use something called as message access agent. There are two ways of having this message access agent being used. Either you could have a POP3 version, or either you could have a IMAP version. Now, but when we are using a normal with Gmail, so uh, yeah, this is the delivery agent or the mailbox, right? So to access that mailbox, we need something called as POP3 or IMAP. Okay. But now when we compose a Gmail to a Gmail thing, uh, okay, now depending on what type of user agent are we going to work with, so will be my message access agent will also will vary. For example, if my user agent, so user agent, suppose if my user agent is Gmail, right? So I'm using Gmail, like the Gmail application. Now, not to create or compose, we won't be using. So this is my Gmail application, which is my user agent, right? Now to access the mailbox, I need some kind of mechanism, right? This is my mailbox, right? So I need some sort of message access agent, right? Now, what Gmail, when you're accessing Gmail, instead of making use of POP3 and IMAP, it has its own internal APIs. So instead of using POP3 or IMAP, we use something called as uh, we use APIs, internal APIs. Basically, we are not making use of POP3, but we are making use of okay. What happened? I don't know. Something which is getting selected. So what Gmail does is, so instead of using POP3 or IMAP message access agent, we use something called as we use internal APIs are being used. The moment you are using what do you say, external application, you will have to use that message access agents. Now whenever you are using message access agent like POP3 map, there is something called as ActiveSync. There is something called as ActiveSync. Let's see what this ActiveSync does. Now, so email, with email we said that we can only transfer certain things, right? What if you want to transfer some okay, what if you want to have um, now ActiveSync is basically a proprietary protocol developed by Microsoft that enables mobile devices and clients to synchronize data with the mail server in real time. Okay, now what do you mean by real time? There is something called as a push and pop, right? Let's see that thing. Push and pull. Now how will, okay, yeah, now I get what he's trying to say here. Now, one thing that we didn't examine is now how will the receiver would come to know that how will we give an indication to the receiver that a new mail is available. Now, that is something that we need to understand. Okay, so now let's see what now we only understood like how the mail is going to be transferred, right? But then the other end should be notified as well that there is what do you say, there is a new mail available and it should be transferred to his user agent, right? Something like that. Well, let's see about that. The notification thing, right? What is the issue here? Okay, again, like two famous personalities, Alice and Bob. This is Alice. Now both are going to have a mailbox, which is something going to be virtual, right? Now they are going to have mailbox here, which is uh, this is a virtual mailbox, and here also we have a Bob again who has his own. Uh, Now this is virtually like remote located, right? Connected, and this is internet, right? And then this is the access to here. Now Bob has to. So there are two three things, right? First is Bob has to. The first thing is Bob has to monitor this mailbox, right? If new mails are available, then those should be transferred to the user agent, and then Bob can see it on his user agent, right? Now there is a problem here. So like in mail client, so there is something called as ActiveSync that we use, right? So what does ActiveSync do is it kind of does a instead of Bob checking everything and having a push architecture, right? I mean the Bob. I mean, so instead of Bob keeping a track of what messages are being sent and then trying to pull messages, we have something called as an active sync that does this job. So active sync will so indirectly what Bob is doing is so indirectly Bob is trying to push messages or pull how do you say, this is pull this is basically pulling messages from mailbox, right? No, every time Bob has to do the hard work, right? So Bob has is uh, Bob is doing the hard work. So instead, what we do is we have something called as active sync being present here, that is actively going to sync in real time. So active sync is just like instead of Bob monitoring the mailbox, um, it is going to provide updates in real time instead of Bob connecting. So active sync will do it in real time. The active sync will um, instead of Bob checking, like, so Bob will be using some sort of polling mechanism, right? So that is like some sort of other mechanism, for example POP3 or IMAP, and trying to check whether is there any new mail, is there any new mail. Instead they will be using something called as an active sync that will have a real time effect. So Bob doesn't have to suck, it's just if there is any real message available, the server will notify him that there is a, a new message available, and just uh, push the message if it's real, if it's available. So even if active sync, so active sync is basically for instead of uh, uh, you can still get the emails by doing a poll, right? To the uh, we can use polling methods like IMAP or POP3 to they don't rely on push, like they are pull. So we are going to pull the emails, right? uh, so either we need to use act. So when you're doing an internal API access, we are directly we are but we are kind of almost directly accessing the mailbox instead of using, for example, when you use Gmail application to have the for example when you do so when your user app, when you have a Gmail user application, right? When you have this is, let's say this is my Gmail user application, and then on the other end itself, on the other end as well, I have Gmail, right? Then I have a mailbox, right? So this is mailbox. Now the mailbox to my Gmail. Now this is when it's internal APIs. Uh, so when I'm using internal API, um, Okay, I'm not using POP3 or ActiveSync or IMAP. So we are not using IMAP, POP3, or ActiveSync. Then you have something called as Microsoft Exchange, right? So what are we exchanging there? So basically, it is an we're going to share data using Microsoft. Then we have that Exchange Active Sync, right? Because that actively real time notifications is what we want. And uh, there are other collaboration suite as well, right? For example, you have one is Microsoft Exchange, then you have Zimbra, right? So let's see what does uh, Zimbra do. Now Zimbra, what is there is something called as Zimbra. Let's see what is Zimbra. Zimbra is basically an open source email server software. Is it my mailbox? Is it the mailbox itself? Oh, so my okay. I guess now. Okay, so Zimbra is that collaboration suite that has the mailbox itself. So this will be it's a cloud mailbox, right? Like it's on the internet. So every client gets that Zimbra mailbox access where you can. Oh, I see what's happening now. Okay, see, I see what's happening. So when I do it as a cloud mailbox, um, so every person who has access to the cloud mailbox can Okay, mailbox is like a place to store mails, right? So anyone who subscribes uh, to Zimbra gets his own mailbox kind of system. So mailbox is basically the, yeah. Okay, yeah. So it provides the mailbox itself. The mailbox is basically the location where we are going to store the mails. I see. Okay. Uh, so this is the mailbox, right? Now this mailbox can be on premise. So we are basically dealing when we have a mailbox which is on not on premise, but which is on virtual, right? Okay. So Microsoft Exchange is like providing that mailbox. I see. So that to the Microsoft collaboration suite. Like it is integrated with Outlook, which is oh, so Microsoft Exchange is the actual is the mailbox itself. Oh, I get. No, it's collaborated with Microsoft. So, mm-hmm. So each okay. Oh, is but that's not my, I guess. Oh, I guess. So most commonly, what is going to happen is your this mailbox company and the email address will be closely linked. Like these two will be the same itself. When the email box and email domain are of the same company, this is the most typical case. For example, when you have a Microsoft Exchange or the address and the mailbox are both managed by the same domain service. For example, yeah. So these mailbox company can be different, right? You can have Zimbra, which is one. Then you can have Exchange, which is one more, and so on and so forth. Okay, I guess yeah, so that's all for this session. I hope you guys liked it, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Till that time, take care. Bye bye.